The second theme is around leadership development. Many organizations, if not all of them, are spending large amounts of money on the development of their leadership teams. And understandably so. In today's fast-moving world of work, we expect more and more from managers. They need to get the work done, of course, but we also expect them to mentor and coach their team members, to communicate effectively and transparently, and to be mindful of their people's overall well-being, among other things. It's no surprise that leadership teams may need a little help with all of this in the form of solid leadership training. And yet, according to one study published by Dr. Robert Brinkerhoff, an internationally recognized learning effectiveness expert, 15% of people don't try a new concept after they learn it. And 70%, that is 70, try but fail or give up. Only 15%, again, of leaders who get training are actually able to establish permanent change after traditional learning experiences. This begs the question, is this result worth the investment? And can long-lasting results ever be achieved if leaders aren't intrinsically motivated to establish permanent change after their training? Therefore, our next statement is as follows. Leadership development is a waste of time and money. Linnea, what do you vote?
Yes, but.
Elena, what do you vote?
I vote yes to another, let's say, statement. Leadership can be a waste of time and money if not done correctly.
All right. Okay, so this second statement, I will start with Linnea as the first time I started with Elena. Linnea, okay, let me hear your thoughts, please.
Sure. The traditional way of doing leadership development, that is a waste of time and money. And when I say traditional, I mean kind of like off-the-shelf solution, 3-day offsite for the leaders with an external trainer, doing some things and then going back to your everyday life and expecting something different to have happened. That doesn't work. I think there's a both sad and interesting study where they sent half the leaders to one of those traditional leadership trainings and half the leaders to they played classical music and they painted. They actually increased their performance more than the traditional leadership training. But here's the but. If you do leadership training from a more evidence-based way, meaning shorter interaction, very, very practical sessions with assignments that you can do in your everyday work, coaching in between the sessions, so you actually practice the behaviors, then I'm all for leadership training. So it really boils down to how you do it.
All right. Thank you for that. Elena?
I believe we're on the same page. It's also very interesting, to see how we use intermittently the words training and learning. And there is a different meaning between it. So training is, pardon my definition and so on, but it's the more traditional, the more one way, the more, top down or things like that. Learning is a lifelong, interactive, getting it to sink in and all these things. Also, I believe learning and development is one of the areas that has evolved the most in the past years. So it's been quite stagnant, I would say, with the 70-20 and with the different methodologies for quite some years. But we see in the past few years now quite leaps and bounds. So we need to be adaptable in order to have a combination of practical outputs, like Linnea is saying, of tools to really see the difference, and of sustainable growth and evolution. That's not something that can be measured straight away. I went there, I learned this, it became second nature, which takes time to become second nature. In the old days, we used to say that it takes at least 2 years. 1 year is to get to understand, to apply, the second year to sink in and assimilate, and from the third year it does. Now we don't have 2 years and so on. Things are going very fast. So you need to have a good balance between learning, training, applying, correction coursing, and seeing the results.
All right. Thank you for that, both of you. I have a thought here, though. Maybe a bit like the devil's advocate, I don't know. But being a leader, being a manager, obviously isn't for everybody. It's a very tough job. And what we've seen a lot happening, and perhaps it still happens, is that in organizations, people who are very, very good at, for instance, being sales, they're being promoted to the manager. But the fact that they're good at sales doesn't mean necessarily that they're a good manager. So might the fact that traditional leadership development isn't really showing that great of a result, might that have something to do with the fact that perhaps a lot of people in leadership management positions should not be in those positions in the first place? All right, Linnea.
I can jump in here. I think we're talking about two things, because I think you're probably right that some of the effect is due to that it's not the right people from the start. But when you actually do like studies, you see that most people, so even the good ones, that's not when they develop. That's not when they learn. So I think in order to have a really like strong leadership within your organization, you need to like master both the selecting aspect and the growing and developing aspect. And here I think when it comes to the selecting, what many organizations will do is that the best salesperson will be sales manager, or the best engineer will be engineering manager, instead of really treating it like any recruitment process that you would do externally and really assessing, do they have the leadership qualities? Do they have the potential to take on this role? Because it is very, very, very different. So that's like the one aspect. And then the other one is like, you also need to change your training. I think one interesting aspect that is really easy for a lot of organizations, like clear investigation of what is actually needed. What is it that the leaders are lacking? What do they need to do more of, less of, and really tailor the program or whatever, like the initiative that you run, that has a better effect. So you need to get the right people in. That will be like the most important aspect, but then also understand what is it that they need to develop.
Okay, Elena.
Again, we need to be clear on the definition. What is leadership? What is management? I would argue a leader can be an individual contributor, needs to be a role model, and so on. I agree with you, Nelly. We very often make this mistake. We find a fantastic individual contributor, a salesperson, say, fantastic, you can share your skills, you can be the role model, you can do. And they don't want it. They don't like it. They just want the title or the money or the status that comes with it, but they're not good. So we need to be very clear that leadership is about everyone, and there are different levels of leadership and influence there. This clarity will help us understand what fits for which population.
Yeah, thank you for that. I have one last thing before we're going to move on to our third theme. And this is something I am super curious to hear your thoughts about as well, because what we do see, and now I'm talking about leaders in terms of the managers, team managers, right? So what we see, and we have been seeing it for a while already, is that we are putting more and more things on the plates of these managers, right? It's what I said a little bit in the introduction to the statement as well. So yes, the work needs to be done, but also we expect them to coach and or mentor their teams. We expect them to be very mindful of people's well-being, among other things, mental well-being. And so a lot of these themes, also initiatives that come from HR, we always really count on managers for these initiatives to be a success. Are we not asking and expecting too much of our managers? And I will start with Elena to hear your thoughts on that.
I thought we were asking this a long time ago, Neely. It is the managers, the people's responsibility. It's not HR responsibility. We've been saying this. I'm quite seasoned, to put it, quite a long time for decades now. So as such, I don't believe we're asking them too much. You can say that the environment has become more complex about the VUCA, about the pace and things like that. So that means that the bar is going higher or the parameters are more. But the essence of looking after and evolving, developing your people lies with the leaders. Then you have support mechanisms, you have support tools that can help you. But let's get the RASI analysis and the responsibilities right from the start.
Nice. Thank you, Elena. Linnea, your thoughts?
I agree, but I would also add that I think we sometimes put too much emphasis on continuing to being an individual contributor as the leader. I think the expectations we set on the leaders are 100% like rational, reasonable. You need to do all those things, but very often it's going to be easier and get results faster if you like do your own work. Because as human beings, often if we go from an individual contributor and become a manager, we will be used to that like quicker feedback loop, like, I'm done with this. I can check it off my list. It's a lot easier. It feels good. And then when we become have a leadership position, we will often need to take time investing in the individuals. It takes longer. There's no like checkbox. You're never done. And I think the problem is that leaders will tend to be drawn to those tasks that they were used to. And that there, I think the issue lies, that we continue to expect them to deliver those aspects or aren't clear enough that your job is to make sure that the other ones are doing their job. So I think there is a conflict there, but the expectations on the leader, I will 100% stand behind. They need to do all those things.
I'm totally with you, Linnea. It's the span of control that we used to have, things like that. We need to give more time and also understand that productivity comes in different forms. And
Yes.
Productivity is developing and spending the time in order to develop your team. It's not only results that are KPIs.
Yeah, that is a beautiful one. It actually gave me goosebumps a little bit, the last one, because this is something that I hear more often, that when people become a manager or a leader, they still have the mindset a little bit of what their productivity used to be like. And there's this whole different way of having to start looking at productivity. So that was a beautiful point. Thank you, both of you.